light to play on this. Okay, if you look, I just kind of turned it a little bit. Here's one Palatine process. There's another Palatine process. Okay. Now, look right here. Okay. This is the back part of your mouth. Okay. This is right where the soft palate begins. Right in here. This is a bone. If you look there, you can see there's kind of a wavy little border here. Okay? This bone is the Palatine bone. Okay? The Palatine process makes up the maxilla. The Palatine bone is behind the maxilla. One is bone, the other is process. Okay? If there's a sticker here, just stop and think, hey, that's the roof of my mouth. The roof of my mouth, I put my tongue right out. Okay, right in here, Palatine process. Okay? You have two of them. Palatine process. All right? That is what you have to worry about for the maxilla, okay, those three things. Because we did the sinus. We looked where that would be. The alveolar process, the socket with the teeth, and the Palatine process. That's the roof of the mouth. All right, here we go. Zygomatic bones. Zygomatic bones, those are going to be basically your cheekbones. Okay, right in here. This is going to be your cheekbones on the side. Right? Don't make the mistake of going here. No, you've got maxilla. This is maxilla here. Okay, go to where your cheeks, you feel this pointy bone right here. Okay, and then it starts to go to the side. That's the zygomatic bone. All right? The zygomatic bone. If you look on, again, that same figure that I was having you look at for the maxilla, the same figure. Look, there is the maxilla right here. Right here is kind of in a bluish gray. Right there at the tip of my finger, there is going to be the zygomatic bone. You can see over here they actually drew an arrow to that bluish gray. Okay? Now, look how you have a little line right there. Right at the tip of my finger, you can see a little line. It's a little suture line. We've already talked about this part when we looked at the temporal bone. We said that this was going to be the temporal process, the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. See, sometimes I even get messed up. The zygomatic process of the temporal bone. Remember, this is named for the bone it touches. What bone is it going to touch? It's going to touch the zygomatic bone. Even though this is part of the temporal bone, this is named for the bone it touches. Zygomatic process of temporal bone. Same thing over here. We have a shortened one, but it's still going to be a process. And this process is going to be the temporal process of the zygomatic bone. You have to think in reverse. Anatomists went berserk on this one. They decided, they all knew in the 21st century you'd all be sitting in this class, and they're all back in the 17th century saying, are we going to really play with their head? Let's call this one the zygomatic process of the temporal bone, and we're going to call this one the temporal process of the zygomatic bone. Think about the process in naming it, name it for the bone it touches. Together, this temporal process of the zygomatic bone and this zygomatic process of the temporal bone form the zygomatic arch. Okay? The zygomatic arch. And look what you got right here. I even put that in there to kind of remind you. Okay? Temporal process of the zygomatic bone, and it's part of the zygomatic arch. In the first page, when you were looking at the first page, I had, there's the first page, right there. There's zygomatic process along with zygomatic arch. Both processes make the arch. So here is going to be your arch, right here, running from there to there. Okay. Running from there, just as what you would expect. Look how it makes an arch. Okay. Now, how am I going to end up if I want you to name the zygomatic process of the temporal bone? You're going to find a sticker right back here. Okay? I'm not going to put a sticker up here because it's too close to this suture line. Okay? So I'm going to put a sticker back here. Or what happens if I want the temporal process of the zygomatic bone? There's going to be a sticker right here. If I want the zygomatic bone itself, well, gee, I put a sticker right over here somewhere, where your cheekbone is. Okay? I would stay away from the arch. If it's on the arch, then you can pretty much bet it's either going to be a process or I'm looking for the arch. Okay? Either a process or I'm looking for the arch. Okay, I'm going to jump down to the to H down here because this one is the mandible, which is your jaw. We'll come back to that in a sec. But before we leave the main skull, you have two lacrimal bones. Okay, two lacrimal bones. And the lacrimal bones are found right at the point, if you look in the mirror and you see this whitish area of your eye, okay, that is right over a lacrimal bone. Okay, you have two of them, one on each side. And the thing that you can tell, and the plastic skulls fortunately are good at this. If you look right here, it says Lacrimal Faucet. If you look, right, here is the nasal bone, right here. Okay? If you had to put a pair of glasses on, this is where they would fit. Right about there. Okay? Right as you move towards the inside of the orbit, you're going to see this opening right here, right at the tip of my finger. That opening is the lacrimal faucet. There's one on both sides. And there's one there. Okay? That is where the tear ducts are. And when you end up crying, okay, well, what happens? The eyes get all watery, okay, and then you start to get a runny nose. Well, tears have to get from the eyes out, so they go down that little tube, which connects it, drains that little, the inner part of the eye, drains the tears away, and drains them into the nose. Then and go through that lacrimal fossa. Now the thing about tears is that you'll see